What is up there everyone, it's the guy from the Gamertag here, and today I wanted to talk about Specialists in Black Ops 3. The gameplay in the background is a team deathmatch on Infection. I was using the KN-44 with a suppressor, and I decided to use Spectre's Ripper. Now this is a specialist weapon that I've just got into using, and it actually is a lot of fun and it is really effective to use. I'll admit it does have a bit more of a niche area where it's usable, because you will find that actually you'll try and activate it and lunge to someone, but they'll be slightly too far. Actually, in a game after this, I had a moment where I was trying to lunge onto someone, and I had the little icon, and before I managed to react and press to activate my Ripper, they just managed to sidestep just out of my range. They ended up smashing me with the gravity spikes literally as I activated it, which was a little bit frustrating, but I did acknowledge that it was due to the fact they just managed to get out of my lethal range just before I activated it, which was a bit unfortunate for me. But I do really like using this weapon, because when you get into that niche range where you're really close to them and you can just lunge to people, you can get some pretty awesome kills. I'll admit on the receiving end it's not so fun when you just have someone commando lunge towards you and insta-kill you, but at the same time specialists are kind of a risk-reward thing. If you haven't used another specialist and it kills you, unfortunately that's how it goes. And I think the weird thing with specialists, and it was kind of something that I heard brought up from FaZe Cross in a Drifter livestream, was that actually when you really think about it, all the specialist weapons and abilities are the really broken and overpowered things from past Call of Duties. And it just made me think, how do they actually work in the game? And when I say work, I mean how do they not make the game completely unplayable? Because you would have thought Last Stand, the War Machine, like noob tubing in general, Commando, Painkiller, all of these things have been basically reskinned in a sense into the specialist abilities in Black Ops 3, and yet somehow the game is actually still really fun to play and it doesn't feel broken. And the reason I think this is for simply everyone has access to this. Everyone has access to their own bit of Call of Duty memorabilia, in the fact that everyone has access to an asset which used to be completely broken. I mean, who'd have ever thought that wall hacks would actually be balanced in a Call of Duty game, and yet somehow they actually are. And the specialist weapons, in my opinion, are really fun, and you can notice how well balanced they are, because you very rarely see a game where you're playing against just one specialist. You find a good variety in what you're playing against. Yeah, you might have 2 or 3 of the same thing on one team one game, but the next game it'll all change up and you'll be playing against something else. You see some abilities a bit less than others, but then that's generally down to the game mode you play. I play Team Deathmatch, so you don't see Reaper's Scythe too much. You do find the odd player that can use it. I've personally tried using it and I just can't get on with it, so I stay away from it. I did use Vision Pulse a lot, but now I'm trying some other things. Spectre's Ripper is something I really enjoy. You don't generally see too much of Battery. You'll see a couple of War Machines, but generally they're from players that are fairly new to the game and just wanted something fairly easy to use. You do see a fair amount of Ruin, but at the same time you won't see the overdrive ability as much, because that's not so useful in TDM. Admittedly, some people do use it really effectively. They use it to just strafe around you, and I admit that can be a little bit annoying on the receiving end, because you just can't react to them a lot of the time because they move so quickly. But at the same time, when your ability's charged up, if you use it at the correct time, you're going to have the same amount of fun they had when they used their ability. And I think that's just about how they work in this game, is the fact that everyone has access to it. So even though you might get annoyed at someone using theirs, you've got yours and you get that choice to use it. And what's more, the fact these are essentially support streaks, which was something that people hated in Modern Warfare 3 and Call of Duty Ghosts, because they just kind of ruined the game, especially when you had lethal support streaks, because they got so annoying, because generally the people that would use them would take a long time to get the kills, and then these would give them so many kills in return, even though they weren't necessarily the most skillful players. I'm not all against support streaks. I think having support streaks that are non-lethal are fine, as long as they aren't too overpowered. Ballistic vests have always been a bit controversial, because they're either too strong or too weak. It's very difficult to find a good balance with them, because you don't want someone who's completely new and skillless hating the game because they can't do well, but at the same time you don't want them being overly rewarded even though they're not playing as well as the seasoned veterans of the game. However, in Black Ops 3, the specialists work really well, and I think the reason they work well is because they work on a timer which is accelerated depending on the amount of points you're getting, and I think that system works really well. It's a little bit like Titanfall, where everyone would get a Titan, but the more people you killed, the faster you would earn it, and the more times you would earn it in one game. And I think that kind of adds a good bit of balance to it, and the timing I think is absolutely perfect on all of them. I haven't seen any abilities where I think, God, I wish this thing could charge up quicker. The Ripper, I was surprised at how quickly this thing charges, and it's why it's a really effective ability to use. In this match, I spawned in, I think I got 3 kills, where one of them I took down someone else's specialist weapon, and I charged up my Ripper completely. I was amazed at how quickly it charged up. I was earning these things faster than I could use them, And that was the main thing. The charging worked really well because the Ripper's ability is you have to be in close quarters, so there's that niche to it, which is probably why it charges up so quickly. Because if you can't get into close range, it's not going to be very useful. And so it kind of requires that little bit of skill to know when to use it and when is an optimum time to use it. I had a moment on Hunted where actually I was swimming underwater and I came up behind two enemies and I thought I could shoot them, but at the same time I can take them out silently and they won't know I'm there until I've killed them if I use the Ripper. And I kind of enjoyed that little bit of tactical thought that I had to go through in order to get this really stealthy kill. And in general, I was worried before Black Ops 3. I was expecting the specialist abilities to kind of be broken, a bit boring, or just to completely ruin the game. But actually, in my view, they've actually added a lot to the game. They've made the game fun, and they've given it an extra bit of variety for the way you want to play, and for what you're playing against. It is quite fun to actually play against different players using different specialists game on game. It adds more variety to the game, and I think overall it's going to add longevity to the game for someone like me. I'm still as yet to reach rank 55. I don't play Black Ops 3 too often, and I find it refreshing that every time I go into a lobby I'm going to see something different. I very rarely see the same thing again. It's got that replayability factor that Rainbow Six Siege has, where you're not sure what you're going to see in every game. It's a lot more predictable than Rainbow Six, but at the same time you don't know what everyone's going to be using in the game, and it keeps you on your toes. And I do like that learning curve to the game, that you've got to be aware of what other people are doing and you can learn from what they're doing as they're doing it. But what do you guys think? Do you think the specialists have actually added something to the game? Do you think they are a bit broken and you wish that some of the things that they brought back with them had never existed in Call of Duty, let alone to have returned in a future game? I personally like them. I think they've added a lot to the game, and I'm surprised that these things that we have hated in past games work so well in one and made it a very fun experience. But anyway, this has been the guy with the gamer tag, and I'll see you on another video.